Welcome to Nonprofit Network, powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are a podcast focused on benefit auctions and fundraising events for the nonprofit community. We are a group of fundraising professionals that specialize in raising funds to improve communities of all sizes. And here it is, episode number 26.
Is that hard to believe?
Number 26.
26.
We've done it. We've
Wow.
done it. We are in the top % of a % to be on episode 26. How about that?
Unbelievable. It's amazing. You know, I don't even care how many viewers we have.
You know, we're just going to
love
pat
you,
ourselves
but-
on the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you're doing something if you make it to 20.
Yeah.
That's right.
And look at
I'm
us.
Kelly Schenfeld.
Hey, Paulie Schenfeld here. Good to see you guys.
And I'm Shelby Stokes. And you are listening to an episode where we talk about fundraising events. And it is just past Labor Day. We just got out of Labor Day. I wasn't supposed to say Labor Day. I just did because I'm a rebel. So we are out. We just
Why
had a
can't you
3-day
say Labor
weekend
Day?
and we're getting ready for the fall.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
Today we are going to talk about some cool stuff, too.
Just real quick, I mean, I can't believe Labor Day just happened. Oh,
It's
where did the
weird.
time go?
It-
Right?
That was like a little weird.
It was a chill. Yeah, I get those every now and again when I get excited.
You're haunted by summers past. The leaves are changing, and there's a lot of change going on in our world.
So much change.
Chill of joy.
Yeah, so much change.
So today we're going to talk about a few things, but we're mainly going to be covering what happens on the auction day, the day of your event, the day that all the pieces come together, and how best to survive that 24-hour gauntlet, maybe even 48 hours.
Yeah, it's
depending
probably
on
a
how
48 hour.
It is, yeah.
Day before is the same as same day.
Pretty much. So essentially, we're going to walk you through best practices. With the coming out the summer and going into the fall, it's going to become realistic very, very soon. So I guess before we really get into the details on the day of, one of the consultants suggested speaking about holding your procurement deadlines. And that is very difficult to do. I think what we'd like to say is if you're out there planning for an event, stay close to those procurement deadlines and know that your donors are always going to try to break them. They're always going to try to push them. And also keep in mind that if somebody comes up to you the day of and says, oh, I have this, there's a good chance that probably shouldn't be in the live.
Yeah.
Right?
That being said,
Uh-oh.
that being said, I agree with all of that stuff, but there are times where, depending on who the donor is, and if this is a donor that is a big piece of your event, then you have a visit with that auctioneer about, okay, look, this came in, where do we put it? Rely on your auctioneer for that heavily. Don't just throw it somewhere in the auction, because your auctioneer will tell you where it's going to best survive. This is just for that rule that they break.
Yeah,
That absolute deadline exists, but you got to be a little open-minded on depending on who donates it, what it is, and all of that.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason you bring that up is because you guys were pleasantly surprised in the spring earlier, and you had this play out, and you were like, normally we don't put items into the live auction right away.
It was a best-selling item.
Yeah.
So it really does depend on what it is, but if it's, another year of jam from Aunt Betty Sue, probably not so much going to put that in the live. But if it's something that this person that's donating it, that has been a huge donor for you in the past, needs that in there and needs that recognition, you absolutely visit with your auctioneer about it, and they'll help you place it.
Yeah. And Betty Sue, get your jam out of here.
You jam out, Betty Sue.
We don't want no jam, Betty Sue.
It always has to deal with those people that are your heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters.
And sometimes you gotta be flexible, and you gotta break the rules a little bit, because you have to keep those people happy. Mm-hmm. Granted, it's gonna depend on what the item is. Obviously, Mary Sue doing a quilt, probably not.
Get your quilt out of here, Mary Sue!
But if
Hard
it's
to be a Mary Sue today, huh?
7
Betty
days
Sue.
on Maui and airfare and everything's included, and they come up and give it to you, you gotta at least think about it, right?
Yeah.
You got to think about it. You got to visit with your auctioneer about it, and then you have to be honest with your donor about it. And I think that is something that you can say to your donor if it's last minute. You know what? Let me visit with my auctioneer and see how we best can purpose this item, and just really rely on that.
Yeah.
for that.
And it could be a lot in the way that you respond to them too, because a lot of the success on some of these higher valued items is their exposure, right? You've had it in your procurement list for months, and you've even had a chance to tease it out to your
Right.
buyers. You've missed all that opportunity to tease that item out
Yeah.
if it comes in last minute.
Definitely. So what we're going to talk about for the rest of the day is day of, like what's actually going to happen the day of. And normally, as previously mentioned, it's a 2-day thing. Normally Friday to a Saturday if you're having a Saturday event. Obviously that changes a little bit if it's not on a Friday, Saturday. But when you go into that day, there's going to be certain things that you're going to want to hit. Hopefully at this point all of your teams are in place, you're ready to go in and execute the night of, but there's still specific details you're going to want to consider. First of which being making sure that all the displays are set up and any items that are going to be present at the event are staged. Now, as we're coming off of a pandemic, there's a lot of silent auction items that are completely online auctions now, and there's also a handful of individuals that are doing both. So they'll do an online auction where they're doing 70 to 80% of their silent auction sales, and then the night of, they'll do 10 to 20 items. That are taking place that night. So those 10 or 20 items that are going to be tangibles in the room or displays have to be set up that day.
I also think that it's important on day of or day before, but day of especially, have have like one person that is in charge of the volunteers, one person that is maybe, delegate out that go-to person, because what you as the ED or the chair is going to find that happens during that day is you're going to have a million people pulling on you. Where do you want this? Where do you want that? Are the flowers here? Where should those go? Who should do this? When do those go out? This, that, the other thing. You can direct them to that person. So I think that the most successful auctions or galas are the ones that have those point people, like this is your volunteer coordinator, this is this coordinator, this is this coordinator. And that way you can send those people that are asking you those questions to those people, and that means you're going to have a meeting morning of with those people and say, you're in charge of dot, 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 dot. And so make it very clear that they're the point person. I also think, depending on how big your organization is, something that's very helpful is during that time of setup to do name tags. Not necessarily during the auction, but there could be quite a few people that don't know each other. So they're going to have that morning time to get cohesive and feel and look more like a team, and then it will make it substantially easier for everybody.
And it's also going to, all of this depends on how many aspects you have of your event
Right.
going on. How many silent items, how many silent sections? Do you have
All
a
of it.
line grab? Do you have a wheel spin? Do you have, you could be looking at 20 to 30 volunteers to set up an event like we do Perfect Pals is a big monster gig that's at Maidenbower. And they take all of Maidenbower A and B, and it is full of silent items.
Yeah.
There's got to be 30 people running around there.
Yeah,
And there's one person in charge.
and that's the go-to person.
That person is Dave, and he's in charge of the silent section.
Yep.
Okay?
And Dave is going to be very, very good at delegating things.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to get all these people together, and they're trying to get everybody organized. Hopefully you've established all of the leadership well before the day of the event. I mean, you should. You should know who's going to be in charge of silent, who's going to be in charge of the wine pull, who's going to be in charge of this and that.
Yep.
You should already have that information ready.
And as you're going through that list of items, also consider registration and checkout setup. We spoke about it before. Prior to the day of, you're obviously going to give this some thought, but actually putting those pieces in place is when it all comes together here on the day of. So we're talking hardware is set up and functioning correctly. You have teammates in their designated spots, and each one of them know exactly what they're going to do. They have bid numbers, tangibles ready and present if they're there, and then you're obviously going to be setting them up in some sort of assembly or functioning registration check and checkout system.
That's the first thing your guests are going to see when they walk in the door, you guys. You
Yeah.
got to nail this part. This part is really, really important. It needs to be smooth. It needs to be fully operational. Half an hour before the doors open, they need to be seated and ready. Because that, like I said, we can't stress that enough. That's the first thing that people are going to
Yep.
experience.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing to consider is having the audio-visual team set up early and then run an audio check prior to the night happening. So normally we try to do a run through a couple hours before show, if at all possible. You know, this is a microphone test. This is any video asset that you want played the day of should be played through at least once on that system.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that,
yeah.
you know, not to bring that to an even bigger picture, but all of that could happen with your run-through meeting with your entire team.
True.
So you've got your auctioneer and your bid spotter are on site. Everything should be ran through a couple hours prior to. That's typically when we do our meetings, is 2-3 hours prior to. Sometimes they take it right up to the limit, but then you're doing sound checks for everybody. You're making sure all the slides are right in the same way, because you're going to run through this in the meeting. And is that on there, that we're going to talk about the auctioneer's meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good, because that's something I want to talk about.
Yeah, and I know that we're kind of like trying to keep it to auction day, but if you're a bigger event where you actually have the venue for 2 or 3 days and your audio visual is in place the day before,
God, yeah.
play that stuff the day before. I know a lot of those AV teams will want to do like sound bumps in terms of the run of show. If you have a music cue coming in, they're going to want to go through those and cue all those up. So anything that you have that's coming in terms of a production audio visual needs to be gone through the day before, because I can't tell you how many times we've been in situations where it's like, here's the flash drive with the video on it.
Yeah.
Just gonna bring that up.
And then
Yep.
you click play and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
In there.
So here's the flash drive. Here's my CD. I mean, what is even a CD? Nobody even knows what that is anymore.
I do.
But what?
Oh,
know,
geez.
I know
Remember those
8 tracks.
days?
I mean, 8 tracks.
8 tracks.
I have 8 tracks.
But okay, so I mean, like, yeah, flash drives don't really get used that often anymore. Everybody's downloading everything all the time. Some venues still don't have capable Wi-Fi, just so you know.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
if they're not able to jack into the internet at the venues, which is more common than you'd think, they can't download or move files on and off the web. So keep that in mind when you're getting ready for the day of, because this stuff can really bite you.
Oh,
if you
big
don't
time.
Take consideration of it.
And if your PowerPoints don't work, it can ruin your night.
Yeah.
So
And so much of this stuff is visual too, right?
Yep.
If you're selling a trip to Hawaii, having that video on the screen or that visual aid of a still of a beach, priceless.
priceless.
Kelly, meeting.
Yes. Meeting, auctioneer meeting. The only reason I'm not an auctioneer, but I'm going to talk about it because I go to them all with the dude. So I think your auctioneer meeting is a great opportunity for you to run through your show bell to bell. That will even make you feel more comfortable about the night. So you as the ED or the chairperson, whoever is designated to say, let's do a run of show. This is where you talk about some of the really important stuff like pronunciation of names. Make sure that if there's names that are tough for people to understand, you know, or say like your auctioneer, that way they can phonetically write it down. But the biggest piece, in my opinion, is talking about doubles. And so doubles always need to be kept secret, right? So if you have your catalog, you don't want to say, you know, Maui trip ×2.
We could sell 2 of these.
We can sell 2 of these. We don't need anybody to know that we're selling 2 of these. So the conversation that you're going to have with your auctioneer is, I need, you know, $1,500, and at $1,500, the donor will do it 2 times. But your auctioneer is really the only one that needs to have that information, and your MC, but you need to inform your MC not to say anything about we've got 2 of these. Because the whole reason you don't want that is because if people only think there's 1, the bidding is going to continue. So that, I was going to talk about that earlier with procurement lines, because I kind of thought that double fell into that. But anyway, so I think that your auctioneer's meeting is so important. That's giving him or her their marching orders. That's giving them everything that you see through your eyes going, and it allows them to, even though they've had conversations with you, it's allowed for them to feel your vision that evening when you go through the run of a show with them. You know, go through each item, make sure the slide works, boom, and then, yeah, if you get $1,500, you can sell that twice. Awesome, thank you. What's the value on that? Try to get them values. If you have values, it's very important for your auctioneers because they're going to want to sell that for well past that value. But if they don't know what the value is, they'll put one on their mind of what they've seen. Well, we don't know. So if you have that value, put it down there for them. Okay, so that's what I had on the auctioneer meeting because that's very important stuff.
And like I've been
Yes, it is.
fired,
Yeah, it's
like
all
I
of
have
it.
been fired for not asking how much something
Yeah.
should sell for.
Yeah.
Like I have had an item that was for a college that was local. I expected this item to bring like 10 grand. It brought 12. I thought it was amazing. And they go, oh no, in the past we've sold that for like 50 grand. It's like,
Oh,
that would have
no,
been
dude.
good
That's
to know.
great information.
Yeah.
To have.
So like I thought I'm slaying this thing. Like
Right.
this is awesome, because I'm reading the package and I'm like, okay, it should be about this, but it wasn't put in front of me, and shame on me for not asking. But also setting expectation early is also.
And in case your auctioneer doesn't ask, let them know if that donor is in the room, because that makes a big difference on what we sell too. So we always want the donor to donate again and again and again and again. And we need to make a big deal out of that donor. We need to say, so-and-so donated it, and then, oh my gosh, this is an incredible package. They've donated it for the last 4 years. But we also need to know if we need to protect that. And it's very important for us to know that information. Who is there, who's bought it in the past possibly. So those are all notes that you can put in there day of, and this is all day of stuff for your auctioneer. Because really, you're not going to have a lot of communication with your auctioneer. You're going to have a lot of communication with your consultant, but not your auctioneer necessarily. He's going to call you, or she's going to call you the week of. But that way you can really hone down for your auctioneer so that the two of you and the bid spotters are all on the same page, and bring you all the money, and then call us and we'll help you.
What I have found through my experience, and for those events that I've been doing year after year, I cannot stress this enough how this has really helped me, is that have that meeting, that auctioneer MC bid spotter meeting, somewhere quiet.
Yes.
Do not do this in the ballroom or out in the silent auction area, because you're going to get 10 people coming up to you, hey, where does this go, where does that go, where does that go? I can get this meeting done in 15 minutes.
And then go out and do a
Then you
slideshow
go
out.
do your stuff, right? But try to get away from the hubbub of what's going on during this meeting, because this is really critical time for you to, like Kelly and Shelby said, to convey the information to your MC and your auctioneer.
Yeah.
The smallest detail, like 12 or 50 grand, could be missed,
Yeah.
and that could be a big deal.
Definitely. I would also suggest really consider who's going to be in that meeting with your presenter and the team, right? Because some situations that I've been in before is where you have the big donor come in, the event chair who's kind of taking it all upon her back, and then they're not fully being transparent with what they want to happen because they're stepping on their tiptoes or they're on eggshells with that other person in the meeting. So really consider who's in that meeting and if they need to be there. As the presenter, they want to know the politics. Like, we want to know the inner politics. Hey, what's Susie's deal? How do I need to wear Susie? Conversations like that are being had. A lot of that stuff will also come together within those consultant meetings or those pre-event calls.
Yeah.
But the night of, what we're focusing on is like top of mind or specific details that's happening, right? We also want to see a lot of changes that have happened in the last 24 hours. Hey, I believe John is going to be here, and John normally gives $10,000. He wasn't going to be here, now he is. He could give 20 this year. Conversations like that are
Yep.
being had. So anything that's coming in hot, changing very quickly, but also the nitty-gritty details that it just works better having a conversation face to face.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
more educated that your auctioneer and your bid spotters and your MC are, the smoother your night's going to go. And that's truly all that they want, is they want to leave that night knowing that they raised your expectations for that it's just, they just keep raising that bar. And that's what our team wants to always make sure. I don't know of any of our guys that don't. or
No,
gals that-
I would bet.
every one of them.
Every one of them, because especially when it comes to your fund and need.
Yeah.
Because typically we will tell you or suggest to you very strongly that on your two upper levels, be it 10,000 or 5,000 or 50,000 and 25, you want to have lead gifts that you know are coming, right? My first question is, okay, is that person going to raise their hand, or would they just like me to say their name?
Right.
It might just be, oh, just say Bill and Sally Jones. Or, no, he wants to raise his hand physically. Good. I mean, if you miss that information and you miss that donor, or
It's a big miss.
it's a big miss, because, and it's happened to all of us, you might have a bidders list in front of you,
Yep.
but it might not be accurate.
Yeah.
And if those upper levels are hugely important that you get those names correct.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that to say, carve out some time to sit and speak with your lead presenter.
Yep.
Whether it be an auctioneer, an MC, fund and need conductor, whoever that person is, carve out at least half an hour to sit
Fund
with
and
them
need
day
conductor, is that like a train conductor?
Hey,
of. Get on the fund and need
That's
train.
fun to say. Ooh,
Fun to say.
that's so fun to say, conductor.
Purple. There was purpley.
Purple.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd like to say, and potentially the most important about the day of, is be flexible. Right now, coming back into the events industry after what we've just gone through COVID, things are up in the air. There's going to be something that doesn't go according to plan. There's going to be something that's out of sorts. There's going to be a vendor that doesn't show up on time. There's going to be some sort of hardware that fails. It's all going to work out. I promise you that. If you have the right team on site, whatever is thrown at you, you're going to be able to work it out.
Yep.
So please take a deep breath, proceed with proceed with confidence, but also be patient with what could potentially happen, because there's a good chance it will. I wish I could sit and tell you differently. You know, plan, everything goes off perfectly. 5 years ago, I think that was much more common. Right now, something is going to go wrong, and you're going to have to pivot around it.
Yep.
Pivot! Everyone's favorite word.
Hate that word.
well,
You
And-
love your pivot.
and like what Kaylee brought up earlier, you know, figure out what aspects of your event you can be flexible on, like a raffle drawing. We're going to do it after item 12. But what if you don't have the information to you? Okay, well, you're going to have to move it.
Yeah.
Or we're going to do the dessert dash after item 6. Well, item 6 comes along, and I don't have the dessert dash information in front of me. All right, well, it's not the end of the world. When you get a chance, you tell your MC, hey, we're going to move that back a few items. So let's go on to number 7. You got to find those things that you can be flexible at. But don't let any of this flexibility affect your fund to need.
Yeah.
Because that is the most important part in my view.
Yeah, and there's so many examples of being flexible. You know, we did one a couple of weeks ago that was virtual. Auctioneer missed the cue on the video, so we had to like go back and hit the video later. You know, another example of that is a party we were at recently. The food was supposed to be there at 3 o'clock. It showed up at like 2:59, and everybody that was there was like, "Oh my gosh, are they going to be here?" Remember Larry pacing up and down, going crazy? So I mean, like, this stuff is going to happen. So we urge you to just roll with it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be great. And also, what we've realized coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of grace going around.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Yeah, I wanted chicken, but I got steak. Yeah, it's not the end of the world."
Yeah.
So there is a little bit more forgiveness within the communities, at least from what I'm seeing.
And you
Thank
know those
goodness
people in
for
your
that.
community that don't have forgiveness. So
You know the
let's
ones.
just talk about those people that don't have that forgiveness thing in there. So
Mary
you just tell them to get it.
If you're going to screw up any plate, don't screw up Sally's plate.
That's the
because
only
that's
plate.
the one that matters.
Yep.
You can
Ooh,
screw the rest
Sally.
of them up. But
Oh, Sally, don't mess up
Sally's
Sally's
and
plate.
Sue's.
that's,
And Mary Sue, please send your jelly this way. I would love a year's worth of jelly in my refrigerator. The girls are all about peanut butter and jellies at my house right there. So, Mary Sue, thanks for all you do.
and lastly, don't
Mary
forget
Sue, thanks for all you do.
don't forget to have fun yourself. You know, it might be hard.
It's overrated. Get over stressed out. Pull your hair out.
Don't
Go
do
home
it.
with a migraine.
Don't do it.
It's worth it.
Honestly, like,
As long as you hit your goal, who cares how you feel?
Who cares how you feel? You're just running the show. It's here for. We're here to be flexible.
you just
Sorry,
gotta-
we're on a podcast.
you just need to vibe check somebody once in a while.
Vibe check somebody.
Hey, vibe check.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go up and, chest bump them and go, vibe check.
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Or no, vibe check. I like that. You know what? That is something that you could do. If you see somebody stressed out, just rock up and say, hey, man, vibe check. Are you cool? And he'll say, yeah.
Yeah.
Or she'll say, yeah. Or they'll cry. Or they'll pee their pants. But you can handle all these things. So,
Have a crying area for your
have
volunteers.
a crying area and a pants peeing area. And other than that, your volunteer.
I don't know about the latter. I don't know about the latter. But final thought on vibe
Final
check.
thought on vibe check.
If you just roll in with like a good, positive, it's all going to work out vibe, That does go a long way
Oh,
in this
it
industry.
does.
It really
It
does.
does. Or, worry about it inside, but tell people on the outside, I'm not worried about it. It'll be fine. And the inside, you're just tearing yourself
No,
up. Yeah.
I totally meant to only order half of the dessert.
Yes.
It's fine.
I did that on purpose.
That's right. I did that on purpose.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We discuss events all the time. NPO event info is coming out of our mouths at all times.
MPO event
You
info.
like that? Has a
I
nice little
love
ring to it,
MPO
doesn't it?
event info.
NPO
Hey.
event info.
Yeah.
I like it.
Ba-na-na. Okay, that's it for episode 26. We are done for the day. Come back and see us next week. The fall is upon us. The schedules are out. People are excited and committing for the next couple of weeks and couple of months. Let's raise some money, y'all.
Go out there, get prepared, and don't forget to have fun and be creative.
Be courageous.
And go do good.
Right on. Let's raise some money.
Later, y'all.
Whoop.
See ya.
Bye.